Some mysteries fade with time, but others grow colder, darker, and even more terrifying, haunting investigators long after the evidence has gone stale. Tonight, we're unlocking 10 unsolved cases so chilling that even professionals couldn't sleep after studying them. 1. Nine hikers, all experienced mountaineers, ventured into the Ural Mountains. They never returned. Weeks later, a search party found their tent torn open from the inside. Boots, coats, and food were still inside, yet the hikers had fled into sub-zero temperatures barefoot. Their bodies were scattered across the snow. Some had fractured skulls and crushed ribs, injuries consistent with a car crash. One was missing her tongue. Radiation traces were found on their clothes. The Soviet investigation labeled it an unknown compelling natural force. Modern theories include an avalanche, a secret weapons test, or the rare katabatic wind, a violent downburst. Even today, Russian authorities reopen the case only to close it again with no clear answers. Investigators admitted this one gave them nightmares. 2. The Somerton Man, 1948, Australia. On Somerton Beach, near Adelaide, police discovered a man lying dead in the sand. He wore a neat suit and polished shoes, but every label had been cut from his clothing. No wallet, no ID, nothing. In his pocket, a scrap of paper reading Tamam Shud, Persian for "It is finished," written in Things. Later, detectives found a rare poetry book, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, with a torn page that matched the scrap. Inside the book was a string of strange letters, believed to be a code. Chief Detective Len Brown worked the case for years. Some believed the man was a Cold War spy. Others thought he'd been poisoned, though no poison was ever detected. In 2022, DNA tests suggested he was Carl Webb, an electrical engineer. But why the code? Why the poetry? And why the elaborate disguise? Investigators say the case still feels like fiction. 3. The Hinterkaifeck murders, 1922, Germany. The Gruber family lived on an isolated Bavarian farmstead. Weeks before their deaths, they reported footprints in the snow leading to their house, but none leaving. They also heard footsteps in the attic. Then, one night, 6 people, including children, were brutally murdered with a mattock. Their bodies were stacked in the barn, hay thrown over them. Neighbors found the farm eerily normal. Smoke curled from the chimney. Cows were fed. Bread had been baked. The killer had stayed for days, living in the house with the corpses. Police questioned more than 100 suspects. Rumors swirled about an angry neighbor or a lover seeking revenge. But no one was ever charged. This is one case that still chills German investigators to the bone. 4. USA. Christmas Eve, Fayetteville, West Virginia. A fire consumed the Sodder family home. 4 children escaped, but 5 vanished. No remains were found in the ashes. The family phone line had been cut, and the ladder normally used for rescue was found thrown into a ditch. Years later, the Sodders received mysterious letters claiming the children were alive. One even included a photograph of a young man who resembled one of the missing boys, grown older. The FBI investigated briefly, but dropped the case. For decades, the Sodder family maintained a billboard on Route 16 begging for answers. None came. Investigators quietly admitted this was the case that never made sense. 5. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse Mystery, 1900, Scotland. When a relief ship arrived at the remote Flannan Isles, the lighthouse was dark. 3 keepers were gone. The logbook described severe storms, though weather reports showed calm seas. The final entry read, "Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all." An official Board of Trade inquiry suggested rogue waves swept the men away. But locals whispered that the island was cursed. To this day, seafarers call it the mystery of the vanished light. 6. The Lead Masks Case, 1966. Brazil. On a hill outside Rio de Janeiro, 2 engineers, Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel Viana, were found dead. They wore matching suits, waterproof coats, and strange lead masks that covered their eyes. Next to them lay a notebook. One entry read, "Be at the designated place. Take capsules. After effect, protect metals, wait for signal." Autopsies found no sign of trauma, but the toxicology report was incomplete. Some believe the men belonged to a secret spiritualist group experimenting with psychic visions. Others insist they were waiting for aliens. Either way, the case left investigators deeply unsettled. 7. The D.B. Cooper hijacking, 1971, USA. On Thanksgiving Eve, a quiet man in a business suit boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305. He handed a stewardess a note. He had a bomb. After landing in Seattle, he released passengers in exchange for $200,000 and parachutes. Then, mid-flight over Washington, he jumped into the stormy night. FBI agents, including Ralph Himmelsbach, hunted for him for decades. Money fragments were later found along the Columbia River, but Cooper himself vanished. Some believe he died in the jump. Others point to suspects like Richard McCoy, a copycat hijacker. In 2016, the FBI closed the case. But in the public mind, D.B. Cooper is still out there, smirking somewhere. 8. The Villisca Axe Murders, 1912 USA. In Villisca, Iowa, 8 people were brutally murdered in their home with an axe. The killer draped sheets over mirrors and windows as though hiding from something or someone. Food was left on the table, untouched. Suspects included State Senator Frank Jones, who had a business feud with the victims, and a drifter named Henry Moore. But despite multiple trials, no conviction was ever made. Today, the house stands as a tourist attraction. Paranormal investigators report cold touches, whispers, even laughter. Some say the spirits are still waiting for justice. 9. The Mary Celeste, 1872, Atlantic Ocean. The Mary Celeste set sail with Captain Benjamin Briggs, his family, and a crew of 7. A month later, the ship was found adrift near the Azores. The cargo of industrial alcohol was untouched. Food supplies were plenty, but the lifeboat was missing. There were no signs of struggle. Did they abandon ship in panic after fumes leaked from the cargo? Or were they taken by pirates? The truth remains buried at sea. 10. In March, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 disappeared with 239 people on board. Military radar suggested the plane veered off course and flew for hours before vanishing over the Indian Ocean. Debris washed up years later on beaches in Madagascar and Réunion Island, but the plane itself was never found. Captain Zahari Shah, the pilot, came under suspicion, but nothing was proven. Some say it was a hijacking. Others whisper of darker conspiracies. Investigators still call it the greatest mystery in aviation history. From hikers who fled their tent in terror, to planes that vanished mid-air, to families who never got their answers, these cases remain unsolved. They left investigators scratching their heads, and sometimes staring nervously over their shoulders. Which of these mysteries do you think has the darkest truth behind it? Drop it in the comments below. And if you want more stories the world can't explain, subscribe to Obscura Vault. Until next time, remember, some vaults should never be opened.